Hey, Steve Minardi here doing the junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with a 1984 Pontiac Grand Prix. Now, if you know your Pontiac history, you remember the Grand Prix launched in 1962, strictly a two-door, always V8 powered, a personal luxury car, almost on league with the Ford Thunderbird and Chrysler 300. But things would change as the 70s emerged. Downsizing became a big deal. And in 1978, the fifth generation arrived. 78 through 87. Downsized significantly, but they still had rear-wheel drive, which is cool. But this is the first Grand Prix that could be had with a V6 engine because, again, they had to get good fuel economy. Uncle Sam was saying, hey, CAFE, corporate average fuel economy, make it add up or we're going to fine you. And people also wanted the most fuel economy they could get out of their cars. So again, this is a Grand Prix, and let's see which engine it does have. It's quite possible it's got a V8, or again, it could have a 6. There's no telling from the outside, short of the VIN, but there's no badges saying 5.0 or anything like that. So, okay, well, this is a V8. That is definitely a Chevy-based V8 engine right there, but I like to add clues, and what I'm seeing here, some telltale stuff. This fan shroud is broken because the fan somehow hit it, and it's also pretty long. We look at the emission sticker and look at this, 3.8 liter. We say, okay, this might be a Pontiac or Buick V6 powered car from day one, with a V8 swap. It goes right in, and you got to remember the three engines possible in 1984 were the 3.8 liter Buick V6, no turbos in Pontiac land, the Chevy 305, or the Olds 350 diesel was certainly a possibility. But if that's correct, this was originally a V6 car. We go to the VIN, and we see in the 8th position an A. Okay, yeah, this was born a 231 Buick V6. So again, somebody put a V8 in place, probably a 350, I hope. But again, that would be a bit of a sleeper. But again, this is again the Grand Prix, 2 doors only. The 6th generation from 1988 onward could be had as a 4-door. They finally went there and they did that. But this is still body on frame, same basic underpinnings as a Monte Carlo or an Olds Cutlass or a Buick Regal or Century. Front disc brakes, same stuff on all of them. The brake shoes, the pads, I should say, the rotors, all that stuff interchanges between the Buick, the Pontiac, the Olds, the Chevy, all of those things. And I guess this was born as a thing called the A body, but in '84, I believe, when the Chevy Celebrity platform took over the A name, GM started calling these G bodies. So it's an A or a G, you choose. But technically this one would be an A body in its final year. Inside this one, something a little bit unusual. Instead of the bucket seats and center console, which kind of go hand in hand with the sporty Grand Prix, this has the basic split bench up front, column shifter, tilt column, and we can see right here the tilt column can go up and down to suit the size of your belly. If you've been on a diet or not, you can do this. This one also has cruise control, and GM used to call this the smart switch, where the wipers, cruise control, all these lights and stuff were on one switch, the smart switch. But there it is right there, first seen in European cars way back in the 70s. But again, the 80-mile-an-hour speedometer, a sign of the times. The irony, of course, is that Ronald Reagan rescinded the mandate for 85-mile-an-hour speedometers in 1982. But Detroit kept going with the 85 thing until like 89, 90, and then finally got back to reality. But they didn't have to, but they did. Strange but true. Now, this one here may be a Landau with this vinyl top on it, and something kind of cool. This is Motor Trend magazine, and well, we all know the drill. Canceled? What do you mean we're canceled? But anyway, January 1979. Old Motor Trend, and in here we see a road test of a very interesting 1979 Grand Prix, a 4-speed. Yes, you could get a 4-speed manual in Grand Prix for the first couple of years. It says here, in the case of our test car, 4-speed manual transmission in place of the automatic for a $200 credit. Yes, they gave you $200 to take a 4-speed instead of the automatic. Driving a car with a good manual transmission installation can be an exhilarating experience on open roads, and for ascending and descending grades, being able to choose any ratio you want when you want it is a distinct advantage. There is also an edge in fuel economy that the typical fluid-coupled transmission doesn't offer. On the next page, they talk about other details on the car. It wasn't very fast, but there's the picture right there on the top. That's a 4-speed stick poking through the floor of a Grand Prix. Yep. Also possible in Monte Carlo in the first couple of years, 78, 79. And we see here, the automatic, to our way of thinking, was unquestionably the better choice for a car such as this, especially considering the fact that at trade-in time, most or all of the $200 saved by getting to the force of the manual will be deducted. That's true until the car begins to appreciate again. Now 4-speed G-bodies are very desirable. But here we have it here, 0 to 60 in 11.2 seconds. Standing quarter mile, 18.6 at 73. And they're talking here, the engine, it says here the 4.9 liter Pontiac wasn't exactly a fire-breathing powerhouse, but it did have a broad, smooth torque range that was enhanced by a modest pair of rubber streaks it laid down at the beginning of our acceleration runs in first gear, and it did have a limited slip differential. But again, to find a 4-speed Grand Prix or any A or G body is a major score. But something we notice here, the roof, the body line is very similar between all the A and G platform cars. And here on the back, I believe this is a Pontiac factory installed item. This would have been the luggage rack right here. Very unusual, but true wood in there. And I'm pretty sure this was a GM accessory, perhaps added at the factory or maybe the dealer level, but it might have been part of the Landau roof on this thing. And yeah, we all know that Grand Prix eventually became front-wheel drive, and you know, some people love these things. They're okay, but to me, you know, you got to have rear-wheel drive. Grand Prix, you could get these as a 4-door, et cetera, et cetera. So again, up till 1987, Grand Prix was strictly a 2-door until you get into this stuff here. And I got to say, the Grand Prix had a little brother called the Grand Am, and in fact, I had a 2001 Grand Am, bright red car, 4-door at the inline 4, front-wheel drive thing. Gave me a little bit of trouble in the ignition department. Okay, I have a little bit of a problem here. We can see here with the locked barrel, we've got it pretty close to coming out, but I can't get access to the underside of the inboard wiring harness. This guy right here doesn't want to come out. So what we're going to have to do is clear the dashboard. So we're going to do that gently. Okay, we're almost there. Getting close. Okay, let's take a look now and see how we've done. So I junked my Grand Am because it wasn't worth keeping around. But a Grand Prix would have been a different story, especially a rear-wheel driver like this. Now I do see something right here, the ignition keys. The trunk may or may not contain fabulous prizes. Treasures, Jimmy Hoffa perhaps, the Lindbergh baby, or a bunch of Hornets. And if that should happen, Super Shane Richardson, be ready to run. And I will go that way, you go that way, but we can only find out by opening. I feel like Geraldo Rivera, or Geraldo Grand Prix. Okay, key goes in, gonna turn to the right. Okay, nice. All right. Okay, good. No Hornets, but here's the original sort of white paint here, cameo white, I guess. Here's the spin right there. Let's see if we see G80, limited slip. ABCDFG, nothing too cool. Yeah. Nah, just a air-conditioned bench seat car. I'm sure that our friend Google user GP will correct us on all of that. That's fine. I love what he does. But in the trunk of this thing, we can see, it's kind of cool, a heavy-duty muffler right here, probably a leftover from the dual exhaust installation. Some spare, these are the tail lights right here for the Grand Prix, all plastic. Look at that. You know, the original 62 Grand Prix and 63 and 4 metal, beautiful die-cast metal structures on them. But by this point in time, fuel economy and cafe and downsizing were the buzzwords, the keywords, the only words in Detroit. Here's a little one-barrel carburetor that's absolutely not from this car or anything from this decade. This is undoubtedly from the 1940s or 50s, some weird one-barrel nothingness. But yeah, oh, check this out. This is kind of cool. The bumper jack went away in favor of kick jacks like this on most GM cars starting in 78. They were lighter, took up less space. You can see right here the motif of a Malibu is pointed out right there. But these were included in the trunk of the car. You'd put this onto the rocker panel and then jack the car up with less likelihood the car's going to fall over from the bumper going sideways. But so that's the story of The Pontiac Grand Prix in its final rear-wheel drive iteration right here. 1984 would go through 87 and then vanish. Now there was one muscle version, the 1986 Pontiac Grand Prix 2+2, which was a pretty cool car. The only downside was it looked the part. It was meant for NASCAR. It had the aero back window, the pointed nose, trunk spoiler, kind of like a Monte Carlo SS. But unlike the Monte Carlo SS, which had 180 horsepower, the Grand Prix 2+2, despite the cool bodywork, had the base 160 horsepower 305, nothing major. But with that said, they tried. But this ain't no 2+2, but it's still a wheel drive Grand Prix from the 5th generation, the final generation of Grand Prix with rear wheel drive. If you like this video, be sure to share it with your friends. Give us a thumbs up. By all means, hit the bell so you know when the next video hits just tomorrow morning.